So this is one of the first tambourines I ever bought. It's a Grover beryllium copper, and the head on this tambourine is about 8 years old. It's pretty old, it's played out, and you can hear that it's still low. So that's not going to give me a very responsive tambourine sound. So this is the head we're going to replace today. Now Grover sells a great tambourine replacement kit that comes with a new tambourine head. It comes with a set of instructions and a rubber band to help put the new tambourine head on the old tambourine. Now you are going to need a couple other things that most people have around their house. You're going to need a razor blade or an X-Acto knife, and I'd suggest a really high quality one so that you know that it's not going to slip. You're going to need some sandpaper, high grit sandpaper to clean up the tambourine. And you're going to need some needle nose pliers to help pull the tambourine head down. And you're going to need some glue. Most people use Elmer's glue because it's pretty easy to deal with. I've used Gorilla Glue occasionally because it's a great percussion repair tool for old mallets and whatnot. You want to be really careful with Gorilla Glue because Gorilla Glue expands and you don't want to put too much on and then have glue all over your tambourine. Now another option for a new tambourine head is an old timpani head. And this is an old dried timpani head, and you can stretch it out, cut a circle out of it a little bit bigger than a tambourine, and use that as your new tambourine head. Now the first thing you want to do is start soaking your new tambourine head. You're going to want to soak it 2 to 3 hours so that the calf expands, so that when you put it on the old tambourine, as it dries, it'll get tighter and tighter and give you that nice, tight tambourine head response. This is a brand new one, and that's the sound we want out of our old tambourine. So I've already got my tambourine head soaking, and now we're going to take off the tambourine head from my old tambourine. In some ways, taking the tambourine head off is actually the most fun part of the process. If the tambourine head's broken, just start pulling the calf off. If you need to cut it open and pull as much of the calf off the old tambourine as possible. Once the old tambourine head is off, you want to sand the top, the sides, and the edges of the tambourine and get as much of the old calf and glue off as possible. You want to expose as much of the wood as you can get. That'll create good adhesion for the new tambourine head. Now that the tambourine has been sanded, we want to clean up the edge and get as much of the dust off so it's nice and clean and there's no dust or remnants in between the new tambourine head and the tambourine. Now we need to get ready to put the new tambourine head on. Grover supplies this great rubber band to hold the tambourine head down on the old tambourine, which works great if you have 2 people. This is very difficult to maneuver with only one person. So what I like to do is use zip ties and string a number of them together so that they wrap all the way around the tambourine. Now that everything's ready, it's time to put the tambourine head on. So I've got my glue open, and I want to run a small bead around the whole tambourine, and I want to have some paper towels on hand just in case I need to clean anything up. Now I'm going to use my finger to put some glue around the sides of the tambourine, but not too much so that it drips. So now's the moment of truth. We have our wet, soaked tambourine head, and we want to position it over the tambourine so that it goes on as evenly distributed as possible. Now we know we're going to have excess that we'll trim off later. And then now we want to position our zip ties that we made earlier, or you can use that rubber band if you have 2 people. We want to make sure that as we tighten, the head stays down on the tambourine. We don't want it to slip out. So once you have the head relatively secure, and the zip tie is relatively tight, you want to start pulling down on the edges of the head and getting it tighter and tighter. But what you really want to make sure is that the zip ties don't pull up and pop off the tambourine. So I'm going to let the tambourine sit like this for the next 24 hours. I'm going to let the calf dry, and I'm going to let the glue set, and tomorrow morning we'll have a brand new tambourine. Alright, so it's a day later. The calf is dry, the glue has set, and now it's time to clean up the tambourine. The first thing you want to do is remove the zip ties that were holding that on. It's pretty easy. We get rid of that. We see that glue's held well, head's really tight, nice and dry. So now the next thing we need to do is just clean up this excess calf that we don't need around the outside. So to clean up the tambourine, we're going to use a razor blade. And again, I'd use a really high quality one so that you know it's not going to slip or move around on you. And we're just going to clean up this excess calf right here. Now always be sure to be cutting away from any of your fingers or anything that might get cut. That way if it slips, it's going to hit the table and you're not going to lose any fingers. So we're just going to dig in. Start pulling apart. Now you can spend a lot of time and make this really pretty, but I'm not too worried about making it exact. I just want to get the excess off. So now that we've trimmed off the excess calf, we've got a nice rim around the outside. The jingles can move freely. And we've got a nice, tight, brand new tambourine head.